Okay, let's try that one again. The chat had frozen up on for a bit, and I was beginning to wonder what was going on. So I clicked it, and all of a sudden it was all gone. And like as after it was gone, I could suddenly see that lots of people had been talking on the chat. So I have no idea when I cut out. I deeply apologize. I might have been talking for the last like 5 minutes without knowing that I wasn't out there anywhere. So, deepest apologies to everyone who probably was watching that, or they suddenly saw me just vanish, like I saw you guys vanish. So, whoops. You guys can tell me in the chat, was I gone for like a long period of time and just gone? It was only a few seconds. Okay. Yeah, the chat had been dead for like a couple minutes. And I was like, well, maybe they just don't feel like talking. That's fine. And it's like, no, this is going on a long time. And I clicked it, and then boom, everything gone. So we'll see. I deeply apologize for that. So let's see. Oh wow, 2 streams at the same time. Holy shit. I hope the other one's still not going. Everyone was pressing F. Okay. I went like, whoops, and then it died. That was when it was like shutting down on me. This is one of the other reasons I hate live streams, is because like I've always worried, like, what happens if my internet goes out or something? So now I know. Let's see. Hold on. Oh wow! All of a sudden, I'm now getting all the comments that I wish I was getting earlier. See, Old Gods Gaming had a question that looked really interesting. Let me get back up to you, brother. Writing a solo snare for Call of Cthulhu based on The Thing. Fantastic film, at least the John Carpenter version. Set in an alternate Cold War era, Antarctica. Do you have any advice for writing Call of Cthulhu scenarios or modules in general? The biggest things, if you're going to write a scenario, is and I've been meaning to do a video on this because I obviously read a lot of scenarios. Tell the game master up front what the hell is going on. Put a synopsis in the beginning. Don't make it to where the game master has to discover over the course of reading it what they're supposed to be doing and what they're supposed to know. Just put in an introduction like, this is what's happening, and what the backstory is, and all of that. Make that very clear up front, because a lot of bad scenarios don't tell you. So you have to like flip through the book, figuring out just what exactly the story is, and don't have it be at any point that they have to make a skill roll to go further. Leave it open enough that in case the players of the scenario come at something sideways, that the game master is able to adapt. Don't try to make it a this happens, and this happens scenario. Make it to where it's more of like an outline that a game master can kind of toy around with. Possibly have to adapt because players are going to do what players do, and they might not set the kind of the narrative that you imagined when you were writing it, or what your playtesters did. So leave it very open. Smile Order 1000 just wanted to drop by and say thank you for getting my friends into Call of Cthulhu. You're welcome. I'm always glad to hear somebody is enjoying Call of Cthulhu. It is my favorite game. Let's see. Oh, whoops. Do we need to resubmit questions? Rio Bucks. Yes, please. The whoops was I was trying to figure out why my chat had been dead for a few minutes, and I clicked it. And then all of a sudden my screen went black. And that was the whoops. And then it was gone. And I was like, wow, I feel like a dick. No, I didn't actually press a in stream button or anything. It just died. Colby, congrats on my Any medal. Well, thank you very much. Thank you. I have trouble calling myself like a 2-time Any Award winner. I guess technically I am, But the New Tales of the Miskatonic Valley had so many people that were involved in that, and that deserve that praise. I was merely one piece of a group project, and my part was evidently not so bad that it drug them down. So I don't really, I don't feel the same level of accomplishment with this as I did when the channel won. Though I am proud, it's just more of the I am part of that any win, but I am one small part out of a very large group of people. Let's see. K J, have I ever had any supernatural experiences? Um, sort of. When I was 21 years old, I woke up in the dead of the night knowing that something horrible had happened. I didn't know what. My girlfriend at the time was asking me what was wrong, and I kept saying that I think something really bad has happened. And the next day, I found out that a very old friend of mine that I hadn't spoken to in a year had committed suicide around that time. So that is the closest I've had to a supernatural experience. Everything else has been something else. I have had what's it called? Where I've dreamed with my eyes open, and the stories where the succubi come from, where you feel like you're locked in and you're trapped and something's sitting on you. I've had that, but that was just due to exhaustion. Let's see. Seth, been following you for ages. Love your content. Have a question. How do you handle kicking problem players who chose to kick out 2 this week rather than pick favorites and wrote kind letters? Oh, I don't like giving advice on interpersonal stuff because I don't know any of the natures of the relationship. It is best to try to talk, of course. Also, try to find out the root of the problem playing. That way, you find out that if you have any responsibility, you at least learn from that, even if you're learning it after it's already the point of no return with any players. But sometimes you just got players that they just don't mesh with you or the group or whatever. It's just not going to work for whatever reason. It might be that they're dicks. It might just be that you guys want different things out of the game and it's not working. Doesn't matter. But I try to talk to them, but I did have the last player that I booted. He had personally expressed to me that he wanted me to, if I ever had any problems, to email him. That way he could have time to formulate his thoughts. And I did email him. And then he lost the email. And several months later asked me why he hadn't gotten a game invite. And that was awkward, because at that point it had been 3 months. And there really wasn't much more to say at that point. If he had gotten the email or seen it originally, we probably would have had a bit more back and forth. But I recommend talking to them. It depends on your relationship. If you can do it in person, do it in person. I've done it in person. I've done it over email. I have had one that just pissed me off so damn bad. I was like, okay, well, screw you. And he just never got invited again. And that was, but if there's a friendship there, always try to keep the friendship. That is, after all, the most important part. Martin Tucker, what is my second favorite game? I'm trying to think. My first is Call of Cthulhu. Right now, I'm enjoying the hell out of Traveler. It is not meat that I would have to. I think it does beat Cyberpunk 2020, just because Cyberpunk 2020 did have a lot of little janky rules that we were able to work past. So I've got a lot of great memories playing it, but that also involved we got house ruled a lot and gotten through the curve. So I'm probably gonna say right now it's Traveler. I'm always gonna have love for D&D, but it is it is a love of respect, because that was my primary game for 18 years of my life. But system wise, it's not my favorite. And James Chambers, we were just talking about you in one of the two streams that happened today, the accidentally destroyed one and the current one. So I wonder if it was this one. Anyways, what's my favorite player created skill, and why was it walking without being spotted? So James, when we were doing RuneQuest, could not think of the term hide or stealth. So he's like, I want to walk without being spotted. And we're all like stealth, but he just couldn't remember the name, which I understand. I'm forgetting all sorts of basic words right now. Spectral Drew, thank you very much for the $20. Buddy and I, who disagree on much, both agree on your content is awesome. Humble creators such as yourself should be encouraged and rewarded. Thank you very much. I'm glad you enjoy it. As I said earlier in one of these two streams, if I can't be helpful, I can at least be entertaining. So glad you guys are enjoying it. And Thalita Costa, $5. First time GM tips on Call of Cthulhu inspired campaign. It's actually in the universe, but the use of the Esoteris, the Call of Cthulhu system. First time GM tips with Call of Cthulhu. I think a lot of people believe that it must always be horror, and that you have to achieve this level of dread in your players. If your players just want to laugh and have fun. Don't try to force it into something it's not. If you try to set the mood and they decide that they just want to laugh and giggle, let them laugh and giggle. And then also when it comes to Call of Cthulhu system, if they are used to more of combat-based games where you're big and powerful and might as well be immortal, Call of Cthulhu can be a bit of a wake-up call as to how fragile the characters are. So you definitely want to express that to them beforehand. That they need to act in a more believable manner when a monster comes out, because one hit in Call of Cthulhu, one good hit can kill you. And if the players are expecting it to be like D&D, they become understandably disappointed or frustrated. So make that very clear beforehand and sell it up as this is actually a really cool feature of it, but make sure they're aware that this is a feature of it and not a horrible surprise that leaves them out of the game. Salty T, thank you for the $5. Really like your GM tool videos. Hope you to see more. I'll post some more. I usually try to post some that are at least what I think would be helpful. I've got so many just goofy little things that we've done that really only work for our particular game that we were playing, and I mean system. I mean that specific campaign. So it's not really good for a GM toolbox sort of thing. Okay. Whoa, where do we go? Dire Corgi, best mount. I don't know. Corgis are adorable, but I got bit by a Corgi a few years ago, so I've always been a little leery of them. And they're adorable little faces, because I was walking past a garage on my way to a mailbox, and the garage started opening, no big deal, and that thing popped up about calf level, and all of a sudden something got my thigh, and it was a Corgi. Some stealth little monster jumped out and got me. So I wouldn't trust him as a mount. I don't trust him anymore. My shirt matches your wallpaper. My shirt, my Weyland-Yutani shirt. Well, you might be in a Weyland-Yutani base somewhere. Just don't open the eggs. If one was to run Massive Nyarlathotep or Horror on the Orient Express, would you recommend using it regular Cthulhu or Pulp Cthulhu? I prefer Pulp Cthulhu, just as a personal thing. It depends on, I guess, what you're going for with them. But I think when in doubt, I would usually go with Pulp Cthulhu, just because that's what my players and I enjoy. But they're very different flavors. So, but that's my personal take on it. But if you want to run it with Call of Cthulhu, which is how they were designed, go for it. BK Dan, question. Thank you for putting that in all caps. That's really easy to find. Have I done a review or played Riffs from Palladium? No. I remember I used to look through the Riffs books at the store, but I've never played Riffs. How do I keep my back or butt from hurting during long gaming sessions? I stand a lot during games. I have to move a lot, but try to call breaks. It was a lot easier back when we were all smokers, and we would call breaks because we had a dependency. But those years are far behind us, so now we have to remember to call breaks periodically just to get up and stretch our legs. So, but it's also, years of experience have given me the stamina to sit on my ass for many hours at a time. Ever try Roll20 or anything like it from Walter Duncan? Yes. Well, I've been having to use Roll20 quite a bit. I enjoy it. It's got a lot of features that I've never explored, and I'm not as adept at. I see what other people do on Roll20. I'm like, what type of sorcery is this? But I use the virtual tabletop a lot. The video audio stinks. So pretty much anybody who uses Roll20 is also using another platform to do their video or chat. But other than that, I like it. Let's see. Great Sky. Love your work, Seth. Best on YouTube. Well, thank you. Thinking about switching to Call of Cthulhu. Currently running a long 5e campaign of 4 years, but getting bored. Should I switch to Call of Cthulhu or Delta Green for first-time players of that genre? Man, that is totally up to you. I prefer Call of Cthulhu, so of course my natural bias is do Call of Cthulhu. If you guys are used to 5e, and 5e is such a different animal than Call of Cthulhu, you might want to look directly at doing Pulp, because that might be more in line with what your players want. But definitely chat with them. If you're wanting the modern times, Call of Cthulhu can do any time period. That they've released their Dark Ages recently. I have been waiting for them to release their new 7th edition Cthulhu by Gaslight. So you're not limited to just being in the 1920s. The Delta Green has a really cool method that they handle sanity, but kind of find out what they like. But I'm a bigger fan of just Call of Cthulhu personally. But as far as what you and your players want, just check them out. Delta Green does have their free quick start, Last Things Last. Call of Cthulhu has theirs with The Haunting. Those are free on DriveThruRPG, so download them, check them out, see what you think, and figure it out. Have fun. Let's see. The Chivalrous Walrus, Cuckoo Kachoo. Thank you for the $5. My mist, have I ever played Pathfinder 2e? No, I have not. I've never tried Pathfinder, so that is not in my wheelhouse of experience. There is it is from the Ukraine. I have no idea how to pronounce your name, but hey, Seth Greeks from Ukraine. Thank you for everything. You're welcome. I am glad you enjoy it. I am sorry, I have no idea how to pronounce your name. Let's see. Nuzzle Stick. Thank you for the $5, but might recommend the Call of Cthulhu scenario, Highway of Blood. I'm pretty sure I have Highway of Blood, the PDF saved. It's just right now we're playing a lot of other stuff, so it is on the list of stuff I'll check out once we're in the mood to venture back into Cthulhu for a one shot or something in the future. Probably right now, though, any one shots we do are going to be with the new Alien game, because I am itching to run my guys through that. Hey, Sergeant Slaughter, just want to say that you're the reason I took the jump to a new system with Conan. It's now my favorite tabletop. See, and, for me, it was like, my players enjoyed it. It wasn't my favorite, but I can see why people like it. Obviously, Sergeant Slaughter enjoyed it, so I'm very happy you do. Um, it is it's a very weird system. I think the most counterintuitive was after years and years of playing D&D, trying to roll ones on 20s and then groaning when you see a 20 was like the most surreal thing, because usually you roll that one and you're like, no. In this game, it's like, yeah, and you're the opposite when you saw a 20. So, but I'm glad you guys are having fun with it. Beautiful, beautiful books. One of my players is actually planning on running some more Conan. He said he would like to try his hat with it. So he's borrowed a couple of my books. So we'll see. We have many decades together of him telling me about games he's going to run and never does. Smallish Bubs. Hey, Seth, I read your Valdekin series. Loved it. Best urban fantasy I've read since the Dresden Files. Thank you very much. It's a fun series. If you're done with the novels, there are a couple different short stories I have out there in various anthologies. The Not Your Average Monster anthology, which you can find all this on Amazon, has a Valdekin short story set in the 80s starring Clay and Schmidt. And then in Snafu Hunters, and also in the new Snafu Medivac anthology, which just came out, I have one called Hungry Eyes, which is a story of Malcolm Romero when he was new to the order and the first time they went into the Paris underground. And I reference that a little bit in the novel Abinus, that Malcolm's been down there. This is the story of when he went down there before. And then in Snafu Black Ops, I have the story Raid on Wusselburg, which is a World War II Valdekin story about the Valdekin Knights trying to reclaim several of the magic weapons that the Nazis had pilfered. And then it involves this gold cauldron that is a historical thing that they found in a lake that came from Wusselburg Castle. So there are a few Valdekin short stories that are out there floating around if you want to have a little bit more of that series. But I am glad you have enjoyed the novels. See. Oh, you are not about to do this to me again, chat. No. Oh, okay, good. Past games. I want to thank you for your many hours of entertaining and informative videos over the years. Your 5e reference sheets have been a godsend, as have you been your RPG philosophy and Game Master Toolbox videos. Come on. I'm glad they're helpful. I'm pretty sure by now there's probably a lot better 5e cheat sheets. I made those in I don't know. It's like right when 5e came out. I think 5e had been out for like 4 or 5 months before we put down what we were playing, and we jumped on that. So I made those in like 2015 into 2014, somewhere in there. I don't know. The years are messy, but so I'm pretty sure there's probably some better ones out there. But I'm glad you're enjoying the ones that I put together and that you find them useful. So, but have fun. The philosophy ones, the philosophy videos, I try to keep them somewhere between like kind of like humorous and serious. Sometimes I feel like I kind of hit or miss a little bit on those. They're definitely my most popular series, but they're usually also the ones that get me the most hate. So I enjoy doing them, but man, sometimes after they're done, I get the hate for a long time over just weird comments. Gamora, your videos are great. Advice across the systems. I've picked up V-Team after 20 years. Any advice on keeping a long game fresh with 3 players over Roll20? They're getting a little murdery. Man, if you're used to playing with players in person and you're going to a Roll20 platform where it's streaming, it is such a curve. We have been wrestling with that ourselves since, I guess, March is when we had to adopt doing Roll20. And call breaks every hour. or at least if you find a break near the hour mark. If you're in the middle of a combat or something, try to finish the combat or get to a break point. But try to call breaks every hour to get people up and move and stuff. Because if they just keep sitting there playing, that's when brains start getting bored and mushy, and they kind of covertly open up that other window and they start surfing the net and stop paying attention. So try to call regular breaks. Our sessions have grown shorter because of Roll20, because the energy in the room of all playing in the same room that's what was able to keep us going for 8 or 10 or occasionally even 12 hours does not exist on the streaming platform. We just don't have the stamina to keep it going that long, and I look forward to when everything has settled back down and we can go back to being in the same room and annoying each other with chewing chips. See, I saw Max Ryder there for a second. What did I miss? Oh man, you missed the first live stream. It died, man. Where were you? You could have stopped that from happening. Oh, Converter Seth has haters. Never saw one. Oh, I've seen a lot. I get a good amount, but anyone that's on the internet for any amount of time gets I think my most recent one was just some dude that was just posting like, fucking nerd. It's like, man, I made it through middle school and high school. You mean nothing to me now. George, I have the stamina. This is true, George. You do have the stamina to keep going, unlike others we could name. But yes, and George will be playing with me this Saturday. Dweebles hate Seth, in my opinion. You can see it in his eyes. He might really hate me, but that's fine. That's why I won't tell him his name. Rob Walker, your live sessions go 8 to 10 hours? Yes, they do. Which that's just basically always been how. After college, during college, we would do every week, and they would be like 3 to 4. But then after college and everybody started getting careers and moving away, we were only able to really meet once or twice a month. So it kind of became this event day. So we would start at 2, and then we ended up moving that back to noon. And then we'll just go. I think the last super long session we ran was the finale of Two-Headed Serpent. I walked in expecting this to take us 2 sessions. And they blasted through that thing, and we went for 12 hours, and we did 2 full sessions worth of stuff, and it was a great finale. By the end of that, your brain is such mush, and the next day you have essentially a hangover because you used up all of your brain power the day before. But it's a lot of fun, though I can never convince the guys to like crash out on my floor like a sleepover afterwards. They're all like, no, I want to go home to my own bed and my wife. But I figured we could stay up and watch like bad 80s movies, but they say no. See, Seth, have I ever played Blades in the Dark Cipher or Edge of the Empire from Sasuga TV? I'm so bad at pronunciations. Blades in the Dark, I have read it. I have a PDF. It looks interesting, but I haven't fully read it. I just got it. It didn't really draw me that much until at TotalCon this year, prior to the virus and everything when we had conventions. This one gentleman explained Blades in the Dark to me in a way that made me go, well, hell, this sounds awesome. Versus people just saying you'll like it and leave it at that. So I would like to check it out based off the sales pitch of some very good salesman geek that was chatting with me. Edge of the Empire, I deeply want to play. My buddy's son has started role playing, and his dad's GMing him. And I for his son's birthday, I pretty much got him everything. Because I think they're canceling all the Star Wars from Fantasy Flight Games. I've heard there's like yes and no, but I think they've canceled it. So I pretty much got it with like the hopes of like, maybe you could run me sometime. A buddy of mine, one of my players, offered to run it. It never did, but so I've got the dice. those goofy little Star Wars dice. I don't know what they mean. I got them. I'm so excited that I get to play it, and now they just live in their packaging. Dang it! Let's see. Here we go. Max Ryder, have you ever heard about Miskatonic Repository Con in mid-October? No. Oh man, I haven't heard about this. Now my October though is like booking super duper fast, but hit me up on Facebook, man, and shoot me the info. I'm like, I need to figure out when my players and I are going to meet because my weekends are like booking like that. So your Edge of the Empire is very good. I've heard that. It sounds exactly like something I would love to do. We ended up going with Traveler, but I've heard some of the mechanics of it are just wonderful. Steve Smith question. Really enjoy your videos. I'm glad. Have you found your player expectations have gotten higher since you become a successful RPG YouTuber? Is there any added pressure GMing? I don't know if my player expectations have changed. I know that a lot of my approaches have changed because a lot of times when I'm working on videos of like philosophy or GM stuff, it's a lot of stuff you don't think about till you're trying to articulate it for a video. And I would like to think that I've actually improved as a GM because of a lot of that. But my player expectations, George says no. So George would know, he's one of my players. But I think I've become a lot more harder on myself, and I've tried to improve quite a bit because of it's stuff that's on my mind a lot more than it was before I started doing YouTube videos on the subject. Let's see. Seth, you wrote and got published novels. Do you have a writing group? Just curious. Yes, I've been in several writing groups, and my favorite one, and that I was on for several years, is the online writing workshop for sci-fi, fantasy, and horror, or just OWW. That is obviously it's an online writing workshop that taught me how to write. I started on that really being able to barely form two sentences together, and I wrote Dameron on that. I wrote most of Hanassier on that. And the only reason I didn't write all of Hanassier on that was, one, I'd been on it for 10 years. I'd learned just about everything that I really could from that format. But I had already sold Hanassier, so I didn't want to like workshop out every chapter of that book. But with Dameron, right here, I got my cover blurb from Elizabeth Bear because of the workshop. At the time, Miss Bear was very involved in that. They have a lot of really great authors and editors that will jump on and they'll help you out. And she had reviewed some of my stuff. So when I sold the book, I reached out to her and I said, hey, could I use part of your reviews that you gave me for a cover blurb? And she said yes. And I've always been exceptionally grateful to Elizabeth Bear for that. So I do recommend that you find a workshop, but that works well. There's a lot of different formats. The online writing workshop worked very well for me. I really dislike the name because it sounds like it's so general, but online writing workshop for sci-fi, fantasy, and horror worked wonderfully for me, and it fit exactly what I need. I will always recommend it. But I'm currently in a group, but it is a group that I've been neglecting quite a bit. Just because I've been so busy with YouTube. Would I ever write any mythos stories in my novels? From Rafael Vasquez. Thank you for the $5. Yes and no. Yeah, I got them all right here. Ashes of Onyx, the King in Yellow, is a actual big part of this, but it is not the Lovecraftian King in Yellow. It is a kind of reinterpretation of the Chambers King in Yellow, but very, very done. And I acknowledge Lovecraft in it because that's all part of the lore. It is set in our world, so it is. I talk about, well, this this author talked about this, and then this author talked about it, and this author talked about it, because the King in Yellow is a mythology that's far older than Lovecraft. He's just one of many authors who just kind of took it and tooled around and played with it. So that's the closest. As far as like writing a Cthulhu mythos story myself, I don't know. That's nothing that's really ever appealed to me. Usually anything I would take like that, I would twist it up enough to make it my own. But if you ever want to read some really interesting modern twists on a lot of Cthulhu mythos stuff, Winter Tide by Ruthanna Emrys is also a very good novel. She absolutely knows the mythos to a mastery level. Didn't enjoy the second book as much, but the first book I really enjoyed. Try to catch up. Sometimes I answer very long-winded things. Either Great Sky or Great Ski. Thank you for the $10. I've been RPGing since 1979. It was D&D, then Traveler, and then Top Secret. Ever heard of RPG paralysis? I think I have it. Serial buyer. RPG paralysis is in you don't want to, you just want to buy it and read it and not run it. Yeah, and I've got a lot of friends that have that. I've got some really close friends that they have some of the most amazing RPG catalogs on their shelves, and they don't ever run it. I don't know why, but yeah, it's a thing. Sometimes it's also just real fun to read a lot of this stuff. Stephen Muchow, question. Thank you for the nice big question tag. Did you ever read F. Paul Wilson's The Keep? I have not. Sorry. Oju Media, thank you for our Cyberpunk 2020 content. Getting ready to run thicker than blood for our first game. That is a wonderful scenario. I think in my review, actually, I think I talk more about its impact on me and my why you should use modules video, but that was a very impactful scenario on me. It got me over a lot of, I guess, my belief that there was nothing more that modules could teach me, because I was super wrong. Try to catch up here. Dexmore, been a long-time fan. I've really enjoyed your videos. Do I plan on doing a Pulp Cthulhu adventure reviews? Also, do I have a website where I can download all my cool handouts? Well, I'm glad you enjoy it. I don't have a website per se that you can download all my handouts. Usually on the review, if I'm going to make my handouts available, I'll put a link to like a Google Drive where you can download them. Sometimes I do not make them available, and part of that deals with I don't want to be stepping on any toes when it comes to possible copyright issues. Like, currently for Traveler, which I'm doing my big thing for, two of the resources that I think are absolutely wonderful and brilliant were made by somebody else who has them available on Drive-Thru RPG for pay what you want. So I'm never going to post links to my copies, even though I might have paid a few tweaks on them, just because I don't want to be messing with his work and whatnot, or that. But normally, if you just go to a review and I talk about a subject, if you just open up the little video description tab, I'll put any links to stuff like that. Sometimes I'll have people request it if I showed it and I forgot to do a link, and I'll go back and update it and put it up there. But I don't have like a centralized website for all of it. So I hope that answers that. BK Dan, question. Am I gaming more basically during this? Well, then streaming away. Have I been gaming more during the pandemic? Yes and no. I've been invited to a lot of different games. So I've played with a lot of different groups more now during the pandemic than I did before. But at the same time, I'm not running anymore. I had originally expected that I was going to be running a lot more sessions, and that is not the case at all. So I'm glad that other people have been able to invite me to their games so I can get more in. I recently had a bit of a crisis where I realized I was committing to too many of them, and I've had to start backing out and turning down offers because I'm currently involved in too many. I'm about to start one Call of Cthulhu adventure. I'm really looking forward to that. They've had some scheduling problems, as is a running theme anytime I talk about games. And then I'm hoping we can finish up Aliens sometime soon, because I don't want to have too many going on at the same time. So I have played more, but I'm not really running anymore. What was it like writing for the new Tales of the Miskatonic Valley? Man, I wish I could freeze it for a second. There we go. This is from Matthew Wolf. I can only imagine how exciting it was. I was very blown away when I was asked to write that scenario, and it was very exciting. It was very stressful to have to write the scenario, but also within specific guidelines. Because normally, if you're writing your own adventure, you make up your own guidelines. So I had to be canon with the Chaosium presentations of Innsmouth. So I had to constantly be referencing Escape from Innsmouth and all that, because I wanted to make sure that everything was canonical. I also had word count limit of 8,000 words. That gets sucked up really fast. And but was exciting. It was a lot of fun. And it has led to some other projects that one day I hope I can finally share what I've been working on for the past year almost. So that is to be announced. So it was a lot of fun. Let's see. Riobeck's King in Yellow in its original chamber forms is a lot more subtle. And you really sense it's from the 1800s. Oh, you can definitely tell it's from the 1800s. I love the fact that the first story in that one, The Repairer of Reputations, is a sci-fi story set in the 1920s. So when you read it now and it's like, oh, this story takes place in 1923 or whenever, and you're like, okay. But then there's no mention of prohibition, and there's these suicide chambers and all this. And it's like, well, this is odd. And then you remember it's like, oh yeah, this was published in 1891. This was a near future science fiction story when it was written, and now it is so quaintly in the past. So, see, Love Sniper question. I'm currently playing a Dragonborn Paragon cleric paladin multi-class 5e character in a game I'm struggling over with a little directions. Got any advice? Just, really the best advice I can ever give you for a character is just choose a gimmick that is fun to do and do it. Come up with one good character trait and that you can really grab and go with, and just have fun. I'd have to see it, know more about it to really be able to give you more, but really, as long as you're having fun. But a lot of times, good gimmick, maybe a way you talk or some weird obsession over something. I once had a character that was absolutely obsessed with drinking Diet Pepsi. See, big fan. But question, you never thought of letting your beard grow? No. I get really icked out if my facial hair starts getting a little too long. So I am definitely not a beard guy. I find them very scratchy. So, but for all you beard guys out there, have at it. Out of curiosity, in your Cyberpunk video, you mentioned making a Polish version of Interlock. By chance, have I shared it, or will I ever share it? I will never share it because of said copyright issues earlier. Because man, I stole liberally from so many sources because that was our game. That was for us. So it was. I actually made a book. It's off in that closet. I'm not going to make you sit here while I dig for it. And since I worked at a university at the time, I was able to be spiral bound, and I handed out our Interlock pulp books, and it was so full of stolen art and stolen everything because it was our game. We had fun. that was a very successful experiment. The when that one ended, it was we'd hit a good point where it could end if we wanted it to, and then fifth edition D&D like just came out, and I was hanging out with my buddy Clay, and he sold me on it. So I was like, okay, guys, we're gonna return to D&D. So we then played D&D for a year, and then when we were done with that, we went straight to seventh edition Call of Cthulhu, which ended up being a lot better than what I put together, just because it had so many resources and uh, had already gone through the trial and errors that I was still figuring it out. Because when you make up your own essential rule system, there's a lot of learning curve and whatnot that you and your players have to endure. And it's sometimes not a lot of fun for your players as you're kind of tooling around making up rules, and they have to deal with the fact that your rules might not be that clean, or that you suddenly have to change them because they weren't that clean. Chris Rowe, have I ever checked out the design mechanism, Mithras, or BRP's D100 stuff? I've checked out BRP, but never Mithras. I think that the BRP system is very elegant. I like it. I prefer some of the things that they did when they updated Cthulhu 7th edition that I prefer over the basic BRP stuff. So if I was ever going to run like just a BRP general game, I would probably just take those rules straight out of 7th edition, such as how they do stats and how they do hard or extreme success. I just find that much, much better. And I'm kind of bummed they didn't update that in BRP, because I think it's a superior method, which BRP has basically been unchanged for decades now. And I think it might be due for that little change. It was very elegant when it was made, but I think they've found something that was a little bit better that they can use to improve it. Great Sky, are there any good voice changers in Discord? I have no idea. I just we don't use Discord when we run. We use WebEx, but I don't know about any of the features for modifying voices. See, Ian Morey talked about Lovecraft Country in the first Curse stream. That might be why that stream died, as I talked about Lovecraft Country, or I said bad things about J.J. Abrams, and he was like, screw this guy, and pushed his magic J.J. button and cut me off. I'll blame J.J. It's a lot easier for me to believe it was J.J. Abrams than any other logical reason. Cheers from Brazil. Have I played the Deadland setting? I have not. Yeah, basically, as I'd mentioned earlier, if you haven't seen a review for it, I probably haven't played it, or haven't played it enough to really have an opinion. Let's see. Subotai Winnie for Lefid. Man, they went away. Talked about Bierce and Chambers. Yes, Bierce was the first to write on The King in Yellow. Chambers came by like 30 years later, and then wrote the short story collection, The King in Yellow. And then Lovecraft came back like 30 years after that and incorporated that into his mythos. So that's part of the reason I loved the mythology, is it keeps growing. It's one of the reasons I loved True Detective season 1, man. When it opened with that murder and it was a King in Yellow plot, it was like, yes! Which, by the way, if nobody's seen True Detective season 1, it's about the King in Yellow and Carcosa. It's got a beautiful shot of trying to say Matthew McConaughey is going kind of crazy, and he's got this, crazy wall of all the strings and everything with Carcosa written in big letters on the back wall. Tech blog, I assume. Thank you for the 15. I'm halfway through Ashes of Onyx. The book is amazing. I'm glad you're enjoying it. Is there a plan for additional books, or is this kind of a one-shot? I wrote Ashes to be a one-shot, but I did leave it available that I could write sequels to it. And the biggest determining factors on that is mostly see how well Ashes sold. Because writing a book can take a year, and that's before you then go through all the rigmarole of editing and going back and forth with your agent, your editor, and then trying to get the audio books and all that stuff done. So I want to see if it'd be worth it to do a second book. And it has not done as well as I had hoped. So I don't think it's probably the best investment of my time, which bums me out. I came up with what book 2 would be about 2 years ago when I finished Ashes. Ashes took 2 years to sell and hit print. When we went to Jerusalem and Jordan on vacation, and I came up with what it would be about there when we were in Petra, in Jerusalem, and a really weird incident we had in Tel Aviv, where we went to a place that was I don't know, sketchy, I think is the best term for it. I wasn't really sure what was going on, but we had to get passport photos made. And I walked into a place that I am positive has been used in every single movie as what the sketchy forgers place looks like. So I was terrified that it was like, is this place legal? I don't know where I am. But our guide was like, no, don't worry. And we got our passport photos so we could get into Jordan. So that gave me some inspiration that I wanted to do at the beginning of a potential sequel to Ashes following the Golden Spire. So, Boris, question. Heard of Cthulhu Invictus? Got a copy right there. And my players did not want to play it. I was actually dancing with the idea of buying Roman Legionnaire armor if I ever reviewed it, but my players, I told them about it, and they were kind of like, eh, and we did Conan instead. So one day, I would like to check out Cthulhu Invictus as a player. Let's see. He said, have I seen the new D&D book Icewind Dale yet? Trying to focus on some horror, survival elements. This is the thing is Inspiration Mountain of Madness. I haven't. I haven't played 5th edition now in 5 years. So the only stuff of theirs that I've picked up and looked at was usually involving a review of something I was talking about, like when I did Tomb of Horrors, and when I did the White Plume Mountain, I went and I picked it up to make sure that see what they had changed, to make sure that I was at least referencing anything in there. I checked out Sinister Seekers Salt Marsh when that came out with their Ghost of Salt Marsh, just because I was curious to see what they had done. But other than that, I haven't really checked out any of the 5th edition stuff, just because it's not my poison. Thulmeister. Question: have you gotten to play Call of Cthulhu Berlin Wicked City? My group adores it. It looks beautiful, and I haven't. Maybe one day, but I haven't really got a chance to check it out. I thumbed through it at Gen Con back in 2019, like when it was brand new. But that was it. And there's also one comic shop in DFW that regularly carries Call of Cthulhu stuff. I think they had it. I know I flipped through in the Western setting and looked at that. Let's see, Nicholas Komashov. Love your content. I've been working in a tabletop system from scratch, and I was wondering if I could pass it your way when it's done to get your thoughts. Depends on what it is. I get, this is a request I get a lot of. I look at kind of an ink is still wet tabletop RPG. It really depends on what it is. You can email me. You pretty much have to pitch it to me, because a lot of stuff, a lot of the ones they send me is like, well, it's based off of 5th edition. It's like, why are you calling me about this? I've never really made any question that I don't really play 5th edition, and so I'm not the best audience for it, or whatever it is. In order to get a review, it requires that I play it, and it's got to seriously impress me, and we have to have an opening in what we're playing, because sometimes we're just enjoying our own scenario. And let's see, right now we are at 55 minutes. So we'll at least try to wrap this up in an hour, and just ignore that. I don't know how long we went on that first stream before. Technical issues or J.J. Abrams, whichever one threw us off of that. But we'll see. I've done a stream before where I said, "Oh, we'll be done in 5 minutes," and then we kept going for like an hour. So we'll see. Have I ever heard the Texas ghost stories and Mineral Wells? Yeah, Mineral Wells is a really popular spot for ghost hunters to go. That's actually where I first heard about it. As a buddy of mine was getting interested in doing some of the ghost hunting, and he told me all about Mineral Wells and the big hotel there. Hmm. Come on, little live thing. Hey Seth, have I ever played Melee, the Fantasy Trip Advanced Melee Wizard, etc.? I have not. Curse you, Abrams. I say that all the time. So, true story. At Gen Con 2015, I came as part of the Writer Symposium, and I was on this panel, big crowded room. There's a couple authors up behind the table, and I had mentioned in there that that J.J. Abrams is not a great storyteller, and half the room gasped in horror, and the other half nodded. And my reasoning was J.J. Abrams can do a hook like nobody's business. He is probably one of the finest writers when it comes to giving you a hook, which is a very powerful thing. His follow through on a hook is atrocious, and he lost existed through just a series of hooks. And eventually, you realize you're never going to get answers to it. And he has done his little presentation on the magic box, how the mystery is what it is. It's like, no, dude, you just don't know how to finish a story. A few months later, the newest and final, well, so far, the Star Wars came out, and I felt so justified in what I had said at Gen Con. So for those of you that like gasped in horror, told you. See, syphilis happy? I don't know. Thank you for the $5. Finally catching Seth live. Well, this was round 2 for tonight. Thank you for all you do. I was recently watching your videos, a lot of prep for my first Call of Cthulhu scenario. Good luck on your first Call of Cthulhu scenario. That was a game that was definitely where the hell has this game been my whole life when I picked it up? But the game had been around my whole life. I had been chased away from it due to the myths surrounding it. But I think it's a wonderful system. I think it is more appropriate for storytelling games than a lot of the other ones out there. It's a very clean, very elegant system. New players can pick it up and they can figure it out real easy with how the skill mechanics work. I love introducing new players to it because there's no math and you can pretty much do anything. It's wonderful. So good luck. Marcus Fredo. He's talking about Lovecraft Country. I was wondering if I happen upon the Necronomicon. Has been on my to-do list for years. One day I'll make it up there. It's just a serious trek for me because I'm in Texas in the Dallas area, and Providence is a bit of a drive. So it is on the bucket list. So eventually, yes, one day I'd like to make it. I've also got a lot of friends in the writing community go to that one. So I'd actually like to go to also just get to meet a lot of them because they've been writing community friends for many years, but we've never actually met face to face. And the Necronomicon is kind of an annual pilgrimage for a lot of them, as is stuff like Robert E. Howard Days down in Texas that's in Cross Plains. I have never made it to Cross Plains, Texas, which is kind of a tragedy. It's a decent drive, but it's not impossible for me to get to. And so I haven't made it to either of those. And I have no excuse for Robert E. Howard Days. So, but yes, one day I would love to make it to Necronomicon. Okay. Bossman. Hi, Seth. What do you think of Call of Cthulhu one-shots for players have hidden agendas against each other? How could I run it smoothly? One, have players that you trust. Currently I have some kind of mixed opinions on a lot of the secret agendas. Mostly because recently, since I have been invited to a lot of games I've played in them, um, I am always the one that seems to have some sort of like big secret agenda going on, and it kind of makes me feel separated from the rest of the players of the party, because I have my own thing that I'm doing. So it's nothing that I would ever want to overuse now that I've had to do it several times, because I always feel like there is some barrier between me and the rest of the group that hurts it. So I think it works best if your group is really used to working together, which is something we don't have in those games because most of them is the first time I've ever played with them. But yeah, I'm all for them. I've done lots of games with secret agendas. My one of my only, I guess, uh, non one shot total party kills. I've had total party kills in one shots, but I've only had two in a real campaign. Was due to secret agendas, and it was actually the campaign ended, and we just kind of let the camera keep rolling for a bit as they were making their escape, and they were going to get to this yacht, and then they were going to ride off into the sunset. And there were secret agendas that I had planted with a lot of the group, just kind of wondering what they were going to do, and they were to see if they would double cross each other. And lo and behold, they all double crossed each other, and they all killed each other right before they got to the yacht. And there were no NPCs in that scene. Like, I was done. I was just letting the camera roll, see what happened. So technically, that legally was a total party kill, but I didn't have any active role in it other than planting hidden agendas. But that was a campaign finale, so that's a little different. For one shots, I say go for it, but don't overuse it. And I think it's best if your players have worked together and they have their own dynamic already in place. So, hey Seth, are you ever going to show us your collection? Well, collection of what? That's I might collect some stuff you guys don't know about. What do you know? Um, I guess of books, of miniatures. I don't know. Maybe sometime. I keep thinking that maybe I'll do one of the little tours of my game room here, and yeah, I never get around to it. I've got a ton of videos that I've been planning to do for years, and I never get around to. Um, okay, Great Sky, man, you have asked a lot of questions today, but thank you. What is the black book behind you at the helm of the shelf? Looks cool. Let's see. That's the Alien box set. That's the Cyberpunk Red box set. That is 6th edition Massive Nyarlathotep. And that is Pulp Cthulhu. And that's, I think, it. Then, like, kind of in the middle, right here is pretty much all the Stygian Fox stuff. You can tell by the little tags at the bottom. The collection. Peter Griffin, you know too much. You know too much. Every books, especially the Black Raven stories, since you've written a lot of fantasy. Any plans to write something more in the vein of sci-fi or space opera? I don't know. I think about it. I've been reading a lot of space opera and all that. I used to always consider that maybe I wasn't smart enough to do sci-fi, but then I end up reading a lot of sci-fi where it's like, I could do a lot of this. Hard science fiction, no, I'm not smart enough or educated to even attempt that. I'm always blown away by how much research and intelligence goes into a good hard sci-fi. A good hard sci-fi is a minority in the hard sci-fi category. There's a lot of terrible hard sci-fi, but so you have to be like an amazing author and really know your shit. It's one of the reasons I love The Expanse. The Expanse is just incredible. It's a wonderful series of books. I enjoy the show. I will read a book until the season of the show comes out, because I actually find I will enjoy the show more if I don't know what's going to happen, and then I read the book. Knowing what happened to the show is not going to be exactly what happens in the book, and then I can enjoy the book by itself. But if I'm afraid that if I read the book and then watched the season, I'd spend the whole time going like, "That's not how it happened," or "They did that better in the book," and it would diminish my enjoyment of that show that I love. So, anyways, so I got talking about The Expanse. Wonderful show, highly recommend it. After the first episode, I think was not that good. It was just a little too buildy uppy slow. Question advice for Game Master Burnout. Running a campaign, assuming having trouble keeping excited for it. Man, GM Burnout is a true thing. Hey, Olus, King of the Winds. Damn, that's a good name. GM Burnout, you might need to change stuff up. Do some one shots on the side. Communicate with your players, because one of the things when you're trying to express to your players that you've got GM burnout, I don't know why I'm taking my glasses off because now I can't read the thing. But when you're communicating to your players that you've got GM burnout, a lot of the times they will protest because they don't want a campaign to end. But the part that you have to explain is the campaign might end because of the burnout. I need help in order to keep the campaign going. So you might need to have one shots. Might want to see if one of your players wants to step up, run you through a game for a bit. One of the things we used to do for years when we played D&D is we had lots of side games. With Cyberpunk, that was our side game for 9 years before it ever became our primary game. That was like our palate cleanser we would do just on the side sometimes. And they were never serious games. We just had a lot of fun with them. And then when I finally hit my wall and I said, I can't play D&D anymore, we switched to Cyberpunk being our primary game, and we approached it very differently, and we had a lot of fun. But that was after years. But talk to your players, see what they might be able to do to help. Tell them you might need to run some one shots, or see if they want to step in and run some little one shots or something to kind of clear your palate to keep your excitement going for the main campaign, because none of you want that to end, especially if you've devoted a lot of time and energy and hopes for the future in it. That sucks, and I'm sorry if you're going through it, because I hate it. Max Rider, yes, the Expanse books are extremely good. I'm an audiobook fan, so I've enjoyed the audiobooks of it. However, I will say the opening chapter of the first novel is a lot like the first episode of the show, which is you got to make it through it. But after that, they're amazing. The hero of Holden in the books is at least a little bit more interesting than he is in the show. Holden is, well, essentially your main character, the least interesting person in this show. And like how awesome the characters are, and a lot of the actors they get for it is a lot of like the further they get from the main crew. Like in the main crew, you've got Amos and Naomi, they're wonderful, but then you get further out, and yeah. And now I'm blanking on all their names. Big dude, the head of the OPA, he is incredible. The woman that's playing Christian is fucking badass, and the belter guy with the beard, the big scar, who pops up in season 3. I loved that character so much. So it's kind of a cool show. Like the further you get from the main cast, like they pull in some amazing actors, and the characters get really good. So it's a wonderful show. Oh, and Bobby. Fuck, Bobby is the shit. Love that character. And the actress that plays her does a fantastic job. Let's see. Don't hate me. I love D&D 5e. Well, no, I don't hate you. Knock yourself out. I think D&D 5e is the cleanest of all of the D&D systems. Well, I never played 4th. I've heard poor things, but I never played 4th. But I played it from box set basic, AD&D 2, 1, 2, 3, 3.5. Left that noise. Came back for 5th. D&D 5e is the cleanest. It is the most approachable. It is very smooth, and it is obviously written to be easy to run. They really took into account the game master's ability to run it and enjoy it. That is very obvious throughout it. They did a fantastic job. It's just not my jam. But if you guys play and enjoy it, for all means, absolutely. I said D&D was my primary campaign, or my primary game for 18 years of my life. I wouldn't trade that for anything. So even when I say I don't play D&D anymore, don't think that means I hate it. And if you play it and enjoy it, by all means, have fun. Let's see. fourth never existed. 1, 2, 3, and 5. Well, technically for me, it never existed either. See, Great Sky, Raised by Wolves is crap. Just saying, Curse the Expanse. Best sci-fi series in years. Currently playing a game of V5 set in Chicago. I've seen ads for Raised by Wolves. Haven't checked it out. Let's see. Stephen Shaw, modern horror, Call of Cthulhu, or Delta Green. Depends what you want. Delta Green is more, we are agents with the agency. It's more X-Files, is like you're getting sent there. And their system for sanity in Delta Green is really cool. I really, really dig the way they did that. And also like the lethality rating for automatic weapons. Delta Green did some very good stuff. Modern Call of Cthulhu, you could do agency stuff, but it's also perfect for just being regular horror, regular people that find themselves in an extraordinary situation of horror. Delta Green, I think there's kind of an assumption that your characters know about the supernatural and the mythos, and you're going after it or trying to cover it up. Well, with Call of Cthulhu, you're that young family that moves into a new house, like at the beginning of any trailer for a good horror movie, of like, they were starting their lives in the American dream, but something was in the basement. That's Call of Cthulhu. So it depends on what you want. Personally, I think 7E is such a clean and wonderful system that I would use it for either. But Delta Green definitely has some serious pluses. Let's see. Seth, what's my current campaign like? Well, currently we are playing Traveler. We are doing the Rift sector. I've started it with I started with an adventure called Flatlined, where basically they wake up on a spaceship that's crashed, and now we're doing Islands in the Rift, which is the backdrop, as they're basically taking this janky cargo hauler spy ship all throughout this sector, trying to get to a drop point to get some information that they need to then get all the way back to home. And it's very sandboxy. There's a lot of different worlds they could go across. I've put together a lot of adventures that they will have in the meantime, little notes like, if they go here, I could do these little hooks, or they go here, I could do these little hooks. So essentially, like right now, they, when they jump, it's like, I just need to know where you're jumping to, and I'll have everything ready for when you get there, and hopefully a little bit after that, depending on if they take the hooks or not. So it's a very spy like Traveler game, and I'm very optimistic about it. We had a really rough game starting that one off, though. That was my failing. I screwed the pooch at the beginning of that one, but it's recovered. But if anybody ever thinks that I am like some sort of amazing game master that everybody should be, if you talk to my players after a few sessions ago, they would beg to differ with that opinion. Todd, I loved the Ravenloft campaign setting. Horror saving throw is fun to use. Yes, Ravenloft I always dug. I really enjoyed a lot of the stuff they did for that in the second edition days. I hadn't really even known till recently that second edition was such a dark time for TSR. I've been reading a lot of stuff on the history of role-playing games in the industry. And so second edition was evidently a very dark time. I always considered it the golden age, man. We had so many settings and so many cool splat books, and I loved it. But when they started digging behind the scenes, how TSR was floundering at the time, I was like, damn, but they released some good stuff. And Ravenloft was one of them. You remember, like, Ravenloft ended up absorbing Lord Soth from Dragonlance, but I never really got that one. But anyway. James Seymour, am I familiar with Arjun Grimoire, Palladium Fantasy? No. Another one I've ever played. This, once again, guys, if you haven't seen me review it, the answer is probably going to be no. Question: what happened in live round 1? Oh, it froze up and aborted me, and that sucked. So that's what happened. Because I said bad things about J.J. Abrams, which is now the story we're sticking to, right? See, I said we were going to end this about 20 minutes ago, and we're still going. So we'll see how that goes. No need to play OSR if you have first edition AD&D. Why stray from the original? That's kind of been my opinion of it. A lot of people are like, you checked out this OSR, and the lower half of that shelf right there, you can see all the gold spines, and then you can see the others, and it's not even all my first edition stuff. So why would I? Yeah, I don't really have a need to look at any of that stuff. I don't really have a favorite circle Lovecraft author after HP. I did enjoy The Burrowers Beneath. The author's name is completely blanking on me right now, but he was born like a week after H.P. Lovecraft died, and I never read any of that group stuff. Well, I never read any of Howard's Lovecraft stuff. I've read Howard by himself, but that was his Conan stuff. I see somebody is responding to George Soto. Yes, that is George that I talked about in my last video. What are my thoughts on the Alien RPG? Okay, so you can ask that one because I've talked about running it before, and you can see it right there. Alien is pretty cool for one shots. I think it's actually really slick for one shots. Their panic and stress dice are a really cool mechanic. I think if you're doing their cinematic play, which is what they call one shots, I think it is fucking awesome. I do not know how well it would work for extended campaign play. I'll have to tool around with it a little bit more and here's some stories about it. Because it's modeled after the movies, and in the movies it's always like, oh, we're discovering these aliens, or then there's one Ripley who's like, stop opening the damn doors, listen to me. But Pookie from Reviews from Rillier, he and I were chatting some months ago, and he mentioned that he played the old Alien RPG, like from like the late 80s, early 90s, whatnot. And they played a really cool campaign where they were space marines, or I think they were space marines, and they played several sessions and several adventures, taking care of uprisings or doing all this stuff for a while before xenomorphs were ever introduced. So the game master actually got them really comfortable in the world of Alien. And then when the xenomorphs appeared, it was like this shock and horror, because they had just gotten used to, we're playing a sci-fi game that's in the Alien universe. I think for that could work extremely well. He told me that story. I was like, oh, that's a brilliant devious plan. I love that. But if you're just flying around the galaxy shooting xenomorphs, I don't know how well it would work as a long-term system. And let's see. Philip, thank you for the $10. Can you say hi? Send a couple dollars your way during a bathroom break at a Call of Cthulhu's game. Okay. Wow. Thank you. Get back to the game, man. Jeez. This is a weird way of saying that he's watching my show while holding his junk in his hand, but I appreciate it. Wash your hands before you get back to the game, please. What is your area of a traveler set? We're playing currently in the normal Third Imperium setting from which they're introduced they didn't introduce. They're just using from Angus Traveler. But I'm not doing New Era or any of that. What I love about the islands is it's all outside the Imperium, but it's not total backwater. I think the islands is a brilliant setting. Okay. What is my favorite campaign you've ever run from the Nick Trickles? Oh, I have a couple, and my two longest term players with me that have been around since 1999. They are in disagreement of which of the two is the best. One was Ravenlofty, I guess. We were playing D&D. It was in a world I came up with. It's actually the same world that my Black Raven series is set, but it actually goes into the world plot. Black Raven series does not. It's just in the same world. They were a band of wandering minstrels. They were not heroes or adventurers. They had a wagon, and they went around the world playing gigs and essentially solving mysteries along the way. And when they started it with a theme game like that, it was like, guys, you can play any class you want, and then there was the racial restrictions for the world, but you're not going to play heroes. You're going to be playing performers that have the potential to become heroes. And so we had there was a gnome illusionist that was like kind of their leader, and there was an assassin that was like a dancer, and then the strong man who was their fighter. And then as the campaign went over 2 years, it kind of became revealed about the dark forces that were really in play, and now we're trying to save the world and all that. But that was a very slow burn, really, really good sandbox. I would love to have seen what that would have looked like had we had a skill-based system. We had to do a very big change up to it to allow more non-weapon proficiencies, because it was very non-weapon proficiency based. Then my second one was what we call the kids campaign, and that was another themed game. That was Cyberpunk 2020, where they played street kids, and we started them at the age of 12. It took place in a single neighborhood in Night City. If you open up the Night City book, the back, there's like these 1 pages of Night City. It's like 4 blocks by 4 blocks. I took I photoshopped in like an overpass going across one corner and some stuff. And that was their whole world. We played in that for a while, and we would do kind of fast forwards of time of every 6 months. So they were aging. And then with Interlock Unlimited, it talked about like if you're going to be playing young characters, if they're below this age, you remove this from these stats and these from this stats. So when they broke those age thresholds, it was like, okay, increase your strength by this and that. So by the end of it, they were going to be essentially beginning Cyberpunk characters. And we played that for a long time, and that was a awesome campaign. We had an incredible amount of fun with it. 'Cause early adventurers were like trying to break into the movies to see a movie, and then by the end they're getting in these huge turf fights with other gangs that are riding around in cars with chainsaws at each other, and it evolved into the full madness. That is a game that's set in the combat zone, because they were in a town that was near the combat zone, and the combat zone was encroaching. There were several gangs operating, so we always had to keep track of what gang turfs were, because those would change as time went on, as they either grew or shrank or got absorbed into other gangs, or a new gang would show up and suddenly take over a large area of turf. So that was a fun game. So those are my 2 favorites. Let's see. What campaign? I was Cyberpunk 2020, and the other was D&D. And so then what do you think? Say thank you for giving inspiration to run games. Middle of writing Delta Green notes right now. Alec, well, I'm glad that you found a lot of my ramblings helpful. I'm glad you enjoy it. Hope you have fun with Delta Green. Let's see. FFG RPG. I haven't played it. I've been wanting to for a while, but I haven't played it. Sorry. Running a game based on stolen from the Books of Blood, like books by Clive Barker, because man, I was always a huge Clive Barker fan. I read a lot of him growing up. George, can't wait for us to have Scott Brown agents in Cyberpunk Red campaign. I'll remember you said that, brother, because if you're ready to try to be Scott Brown, you got to prove yourself to be worthy of Scott Brown. I don't take wussies. Let's see. What am I scared of? Existentially or basic phobias? Basic phobias. Heights screw with me. And I have a weird irrational fear of parasites, like having to pull a worm out of my body has been a common terror of mine ever since. I think my older brother terrified me with stories of me having to get a worm and um, taking like a pencil and winding it out of a vein very slowly of some like 15-foot worm in my body. And for that has always screwed with me. So how's that? Would I ever consider recording one of my games? No. Neither my players nor I have any interest in streaming our games. Game days are our days as a bunch of old friends to hang out, and having a camera in the room would be intrusive on that and kind of take away with why we're there, because we're shutting out the outside world to be a bunch of kids and dorks and not worry about the outside world. And I think inviting a camera in the room would just be an unnecessary stressor. None of us want to deal with that because that's not why we game. Let's see, where are we now? We're now at an hour and almost a half. Okay, let's see if we can try to wrap this up again. What's the best piece of advice I could give for a first-time writer? Elliot Chapman. Keep writing. Give yourself reasonable deadlines. When I first started, my deadline was 1 chapter a month. Come hell or high water, I would get 1 chapter a month. And if you can stick to a very reasonable, very attainable deadline, you can keep writing. A lot of people give themselves some grandiose deadline or goal for themselves that they can't maintain, and then they get frustrated and they quit. So it's one of those under promise, over deliver sort of goals. So mine was a chapter a month. So no matter what happened for many years, I always got a chapter. I didn't specify how long that chapter has to be. It could be short, could be long. As the years went on and I got more comfortable and regular with my writing, it started becoming any chapter I start that month, I have to finish that month, because sometimes I could knock out a chapter in a couple days. And then it started becoming word count goals of, I was going to get 7,000 words, and it never counted until there was a chapter end. Or then it was 10,000 when I was really at my, real big peak, which that's very easy to attain when you're in a good flow and nothing else is going on in your life. But then things happen. Life gets in the way. You had a funk, work gets busy, friends and family and everything else is getting involved. It's suddenly hard. So make your deadline to yourself something that's attainable in the worst of times. That way it's something you can stick to. So that's the best piece of writing advice I could ever give any new author. Just because I've watched so many get frustrated and quit early on. Seth hates parasites. Internal parasites. Internal stuff like ticks or mosquitoes. No, but those things where you see like somebody have to pull a blot fly out of their eye. Jesus God, no. So Ex Martus, man, love that view of not recording games. Thank you. That has been a regular thing I've had to repeat a lot. 'Cause I've had people try to guilt or shame me that I'm somehow obligated to record our games for them, and that always it seems so weird to me. But Seth hates rot grubs. No, because that's fantasy stuff. I can handle that. Though I remember many years ago, my buddy had a barbarian, and somebody got rot grubs. And he was like, I'm going to suck the rot grubs out. And it was like, what? He's like, yeah, I'm going to just suck the rot grub out of my friend here. And it was like, okay. And he did. And then he was like, now I'm going to eat it. And he read my face. He's like, yeah, I'm serious. And I let him because that was just so fucking metal. So that was a great barbarian. So anyway. Taxboard, does Scott Brown ever find my video about your war story? I can't imagine they don't know about it, but I've never heard anything about it, and I'm not going to point it out to them. But I still enjoy whenever I do go through Denton, because my favorite used bookstore in Denton, Recycled Books, is a big Scott Brown sign in its upper window, and they've got like a big building around the corner with a Scott Brown mural on the wall. So they're all over the place here still. And so hopefully they enjoyed it, but I'm sure they have to know about it by now. Great Sky, what do I think of Sly Force's lazy DM concept of not preparing for a game instead of letting the players dictate the direction of the game? Good luck. I think just about anything is possible if your players have a certain set of expectations and are willing to do a certain amount of work to help you out. But I consider that an extremely dangerous approach. You should always be able to adapt for what the players are doing, but at the same time, I think a GM should prep. I have been through games where the GM was very, I'm just going to fly this by the seat of my pants, and they felt like they were flying by the seat of their pants. They were frustrating. The stories sucked. And then a little bit of prep goes a long way. So I'm a bigger fan of prep. As I said, I did that in one of my GM sins videos, and I got a lot of like hate, like, no, I improvise. It's the greatest thing. It's like, you always got to improvise. I guess they thought me saying that you prep beforehand means that I set a set script that they must follow all the time. It's like, no, you prep, because then you're going to have to use a lot of your brain to improvise just what in the fuck your players are about to do, because your players are, at least my players, are always going to come at it sideways with some sort of just bizarre plan or bizarre interpretation of what they feel that is the best way to approach it. Anyway, it's a bit of a misleading question. I guess you're talking to someone else. Unprepared DMs are awful. Agreed. See, what program do I use to edit my videos? Been tempted to try to review RPGs. Okay, so anybody that's watched my channel for some time, why the fuck do I keep taking off my glasses? But anybody that's ever watched my channel for some time knows that there has been a serious learning curve in a lot of the material that I use. But one thing that's been consistent that entire time is I've always used a program called HitFilm. It is a fantastic editing program. It is 100% free. Unlike Adobe and all those that'll cost an arm and a leg. If you're just kind of wanting to try this out, HitFilm Express, definitely check that out. There are add-on packages, and I've purchased a few of the add-on packages, like when you see videos and I've got like a blood spray or rocks falling and stuff. That's all stuff that I purchased effects packages later on, as is the duotone with Jack, where he goes into sepia tones. But the basic program has got basic editing, basic green screen, a couple minor effects. You got your wipes and your fades and all that. That's free. Try that. And if you've got access to something like Adobe or one of those very expensive editing programs, knock yourself out. But I have never felt the need to use them. So I'm a huge satisfied customer. Well, customers in it was free at first, but then I paid a little bit more. Solitaire Stora. Hey Seth, running my first Call of Cthulhu game tomorrow. Your vids have really helped. Well, good luck. Okay, there's no question. Just as a thank you. Well, good luck with your first game. Have fun. It's sometimes a bit intimidating the first game you play in a new system. But wait, what was that program for Max Rider? HitFilm. No, I think it's called HitFilm Express. So check it out. Let's see. What's my favorite die? Man, my favorite die is the double six-sided dice. Well, they're 12-sided dice, but they're 6-sided dice. That's my favorite die. I love those things. In fact, I'm gonna commit a sin here. I picked up a lot more of them to give to my players when they did their second Kickstarter, but we don't play together right now. So I've got bags and bags of double six dice that I will be handing them out. So anyways, love the hair. Yeah, hair is just kind of blah right now. Ever run Call of Cthulhu in the modern day? I have. I've got a few little adventures I want to try out again once things have kind of settled down and I can focus on having some side games. So Streaming sin. I know, but it was just right there, man. It was just right there. Let's see. Double six-sided dice. Well, shit, I already tossed them over there. They're basically D12s that have the 1 through 6 numbering on them twice because they roll better than a cube. So my main set of dice that I use for like Call of Cthulhu is a very beautiful set that I customized from Game Science that's got 3 of the double-digit 10s, the 10, 20, 30, to do bonus and penalty dice and expanded D6 and all of that. And then I don't even use their D6 because they're cubes. I like the 12-sided, 6-sided dice. So I think double 6 dice are freaking awesome. I haven't figured out how to do a video on that because it'd be like 30 seconds of like, these are the shit, and then I'm done. So maybe one day I'll talk about them. How do I feel about Warhammer Fantasy? I feel nothing about it. I've never played it. So I started playing Pirates of Drenax. I've had a chance to read or run it. I've skimmed it. I haven't read the whole thing. When we started playing Traveler, I didn't want to put us in some long-running campaign before we really knew what it was we wanted or how much we liked the system or any of that. I wanted to try some short scenarios and adventures before we dove into a long-running campaign like Drenax. And then when we were done with that in the Cygnus Crucible, it was because I had a different campaign idea I wanted to do. It takes place in the Rift. So I've got Drenax. I flipped through it. I like a lot of the stuff I've seen. The people that love it absolutely love it, but I don't know. My opinions on Trail of Cthulhu. None. Never read it. Do you ever use those big D100s for Call of Cthulhu? No. We use the percentile dice system. The big kind of gimmicky D100s. I think they have like a BB in them. No. Because I remember when I first introduced to those, it was like back in the 90s at the little comic and game shop I used to go to. And that thing was like $5. That was a hell of a lot of money. That was 2 Raul Partha miniatures right there. So I never got one. Oh wow, that just flipped right past. Is D&D 5e my go-to fantasy RPG? No. I have no real interest in playing, I would play it, but I have no interest in running 5e anymore. If I don't really have a go-to fantasy RPG at the system most at the time, just because I'm enjoying modern day, recent history or science fiction. Fantasy, I've done so much of that it just doesn't capture me the same way that it used to. That was D&D was my primary game for 18 years of my life, and I've just trying new stuff now. So if we were to go back to fantasy, it would most likely be some form of skill-based mechanic over a D&D mechanic, just because that's what we've really been enjoying, and we like it a lot more. Anthony Ridgway, I have the dodecahedron D4s for the same reason. I didn't pick up the 12-sided D4s just because I love Caltrop D4s, but 2, I was like worried, like I didn't know how much we get them confused with the other double 6 dice. So I never picked those up. I just used the D6 ones. Have I ever run the Village of Hamlet? Somebody hasn't watched my review. The straight Village of Hamlet, I have ripped off. Man, I've ripped off that guard tower so many times. That moat house building. And I've used the map for other stuff. But the Village of Hamlet was the first D&D adventure I ever played. And the reason I kind of have a weird emphasis there is the actual first D&D adventure I ever played came with this big box set of D&D I got for like my birthday when I was 13 that had an adventure you run yourself through, which kind of teaches you the game. But then when I finally found a group and I got to play, we did the Village of Hamlet. So I've played it, and then I have absolutely stolen every aspect of it and used that many, many times. So I think by modern standards, it is not I don't think it's amazing. I think from what it contributed and what people were able to build off of, I think is the real um, beauty of the Village of Hamlet. But people that are like, you have to play it, no, not really. People I think have done much better jobs with scenarios since then. It's just they wouldn't exist if you didn't have the Village of Hamlet to teach people dungeons and adventures and what they like and cool little villages to set stuff in. I prefer Secret of Bone Hill if I was going to do a town game. In fact, Secret of Bone Hill, that is the base for Sinister Secret of Saltmarsh. I have done and I love. Chris Ruggins recently did a practice run for Call of Cthulhu. Ready to run a short campaign, all thanks to your videos. The Haunting, Dead Light. Hell yeah. 2 awesome scenarios. Going into the Idol of Thoth, also a fun one. Dead Light is such a damn fine scenario. I really, really, really liked that one. Nick Trickles, what is my least favorite RPG? You know, my it's such a weird thing to answer because I'm trying to, like, for it to be my least favorite means I never got to play it because that I shut that down. There was one that early on in my channel, it was the first time somebody was like, hey, if I send you this, will you review it? And I was like, sure. It's like, you know, I was kind of impressed somebody did that. And there's a self-pub thing called All Their Strengths. And I have tried to read that book so many times, I can't make heads or tails of it. So it never even got to the point where we played it. But that would probably be my answer. That because man, I kept trying and I could not make heads or tails of that damn game one bit. Talon Owag, do I ever think I would make a video series about making an adventure for tabletop role-playing games? I would love to hear your thoughts about the most important aspects you feel need to be a good module. Probably not. The reason being is it depends on well, I could do one over just the themes of writing a module itself, but as far as what to put into a module, as far as the themes, there's so many different ones you could do based off so many different types of systems. And you know, if I say like the best Call of Cthulhu scenario has this, hell, I can name among my favorites scenarios that don't have that. So I can never just say this is what they all must need because I've sung the praises of scenarios that don't have that themselves. So obviously there is no absolute, other than it's easy to follow and it's fun. But you know, make sure that it's fun to play, not just a story. A lot of modules now, a lot of modern modules end up being like these little short stories that are pretending to be modules. So the GM picks it up. It's like 40 pages. But the module doesn't really begin until like page 28. It's like before then there's this huge story that the players will never going to find out. And those stink. So make it basically where you hit the ground running. Okay, tell you what. Let me go ahead and I'm going to start wrapping this one up in just a couple minutes now. Let me get like just a couple more questions. Can you explain what makes the system skill-based compared to not? Yeah, eventually I might do a video on this as a level-based game. There's level-based and skill-based, or class-based is level-based. Dungeons and Dragons is, I think, the biggest, best example you could give of what a class or a level-based game is, because you play a class like I am a warrior, or I am a rogue, or I am a cleric, and then you get experience points. And when you gain experience points, you gain levels. With levels become hit points and powers and all this, but it's all within the ranks of what's available for someone's of these levels. A skill-based game has no character classes at all. You basically come up with your character concept and you choose the skills that's going to have, and you build from there. And the really good skill-based systems have it to where there is, your skills individually go up as you use them. So there's no, oh, I gained a level and now these skills that I have never even used before suddenly got better. It's like, no, the individual ones you used got better. And they might not be the ones you started with. They might be ones that you picked up after the game started. Uh, I find that much more realistic, much more versatile, and much easier to role play. Also, with skill-based games, you very rarely do you gain stuff like hit points, so you're more squishy. Then in level-based games, you kind of rise up to be these kind of superheroes or demigods. So that's the short answer. There's so many different types of skill-based games that I'm sure there's somebody going, no, there's an exception. I'm sure there's dozens, but that's the general difference between them. Of all the characters you've ever played, who would win in a fight between all of them? Chow, my cyberpunk character, Pistolero, he would win. He was just really good with pistols, like a little too good. Will it ever make a release an official D&D setting book with the world the Black Raven series take place? No. It's that setting world, well, definitely different than the D&D one. It's also very low magic. That followed more of the sword and sorcery style, where magic was usually held by the bad guy, and the hero has to overcome that. Magic was usually very dark in the Black Raven series, versus D&D, where there's a lot of spellcasters. So I don't think it even really worked that well for D&D. Dex Moore. Will I ever do a top 10 Call of Cthulhu adventures, like the ones I talked about on my starter set? No, I will not do a video on that one. And part of the reason why not is there are so many scenarios, and as many as I have run and read, I have only really crossed a lot of the tip of the iceberg on that. Out of the ones that I have run and read, and I refer to people a lot, they are usually Edge of Darkness, Deadlight are in the top two. Then The Haunting is always in there because that's also a very good scenario. But after that, it starts becoming so kind of weird about all the different stuff out there you could like or enjoy or want to play. But usually my first three of those that I recommend. I think Deadlight and Edge of Darkness are probably two of the best starting scenarios you could do. Mm-hmm. Do I have an opinion on the World of Darkness setting? Man, back in the 90s, during the golden age of vampire and werewolf, I loved listening to my buddies play that played those, tell me all about them. I played like a session or two, but we were kind of half-assing it. We were in college, and didn't really get much opinion on it from that. It was mostly us screwing around and barely really playing the game. So I remember the video game, man. Bloodline, that was an awesome game. But on the settings, not much. Hardly the only one you would want to get the opinion on from that one. I think the Gentleman Gamer ended up becoming such an authority on it. He now writes for it. So if you want more about that, I'd probably check out his channel. Let's see. Let's go ahead. 47:55. I got 2 minutes. I'm definitely killing this at 2 minutes. Linkmar supplement, cover low magic fantasy, an excellent piece of work. Linkmar was badass, and Linkmar was definitely influential for that decision when I wrote the Black Raven series. Loved it. What is my favorite D&D monster, either mechanics or lore-wise? Man, I don't know. The Beholders are always just freaking cool, just because so many other stuff. They're like, well, this makes sense in this thing. It's like, no, fuck it. Floating eyeball shoots beams. It's got little eyeballs on top. I think the Beholder has been like on the cover of just about every monster manual and every edition. So I think that's pretty cool. I like those. I didn't use them very much because they're goddamn terrifying. I've ever played with Jeff D., creator of Villains and Vigilantes. Wow. My tongue is getting tired. From Great Sky. No, never played. Let's see. Gentleman Gamers Novice Stu used to play with him by community post. I'd hope he's a good guy. I've never met him. I've never communicated with him, but he always seems very knowledgeable, real nice, and I've heard very good things about him. What's my view on the bond systems? We're having a bond with others like Delta Green, Vampire Masquerade. Well, I really like the way they did it in Delta Green. I thought that was very cool. I think that's a very clean way of doing sanity for Delta Green. So I did like that. Don't remember much about Vampire, so I can't really speak on that. So let's go ahead and call this one a night. This particular stream's been going for close to 2 hours now, so I think our time is probably done. So anyways, thank you for joining in, and thank you for watching. I will be coming with a regular review next week. I said this during stream attempt number 1 that I'll be doing the Calixcule incident as a scenario review for Traveler, and then after that, I do want to do a video on how I did the campaign where we had rotating game masters but kept one single story narrative going. I'll see how well I can write that out as far as a video that people might find useful, because it works really well if you use it in the exact same way we used it. So I'm going to try to present it in a way that would be useful for people wanting to use it for different things. Otherwise, it wouldn't be that much fun to watch if you're all like, well, I don't want to play that campaign. So I'll see how well I can write that one out. But anyways, wow. Forthor! Man, that was an amazing game. What do I think about the superhero genre? And that never really appealed to me. So sorry. And okay. Well, anyways, good night, everyone. And I will be back in a few days with a new video. Till then, take care.